An 8-year-old.
So back in 1996, I began having severe panic attacks. And what I ended up finding was that I knew that there was something more than just relieving them with medication. The physicians that I had seen would give me medication, and it might help for a little bit, but I always just had this feeling there was got to be something else. And what I ended up finding was mindfulness meditation practice. And I began practicing daily, and I found it to be of enormous benefit. Not only did it help basically eliminate the panic attacks that I was having, but it also helped me in so many other ways. It helped me just reduce my overall stress level. It helped me feel more alive. It helped with my relationships. It overall helped my life in a really beneficial way, much more than just relieving the panic attack issue that I was having. And I became so excited about it because I was working in the healthcare field at the time and have done so ever since. And I wanted to find ways on how could I bring this into the work that I'm doing with the clients or patients that I end up working with. And what I ended up finding was Jon Kabat-Zinn. Has anyone ever heard of Jon Kabat-Zinn? Okay, great. Wonderful. So he's a brilliant man who back in 1979 created this stress reduction clinic at the UMass Medical Center. Looks like the phone is ringing. I'll ignore it. It's not my phone. Okay, hopefully I didn't answer the call. So Jon Kabat-Zinn in 1979 founded the Stress Reduction Clinic at the University of Massachusetts Medical School. And he created this program known as Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. So the phone rang. I don't know if it's still recording.
It is.
Okay, great. So it's known as Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction, otherwise known as MBSR. And he wrote a book known as Full Catastrophe Living, which is in the resources that I've included in the handout, and which outlines the whole program. And so after I read that, I pursued it further and began training in that whole method known as mindfulness-based stress reduction, which is this very intensive 8-week program for people. At the time, it was designated for people with stress-related disorders, chronic illness, pain issues. And because of the research done on it, it was found to be extremely successful. It had been shown to reduce pain, to reduce anxiety, to reduce depression, as well as a whole slew of other challenges that people were having. And so what ended up happening was there became programs all over the world that modeled theirs after this original program, known as MBSR, or Mindfulness-Based Stress Reduction. So after I'd read Full Catastrophe Living, I began training to become a teacher. And so I've been teaching MBSR on and off since 2001. And what I've been doing for the past couple years has been teaching it at our cancer center up in Lafayette. And I've designed it to be an 8-week program that follows a very similar curriculum and format as the original one that was created by Jon Kabat-Zinn. There's actually hundreds of clinics all over the world that are doing this as well. So the class is, the core curriculum of the class is mindfulness practice. And that's what we're going to be talking about today is mindfulness practice. And we're going to talk about how to practice it, both the formal practice of meditation, which I'll get into, as well as the more informal practice of bringing mindfulness into just daily life. Because it's not just about the meditation. And it's very different than what we would think about as a typical stress management course or any kind of relaxation training. There's quite a bit of depth to it. And today I'm hoping that you could walk away with some tools on practicing both the formal practice, if you choose to, as well as the informal practice of bringing it into daily life. So first of all, we should probably define mindfulness. And just so you know, mindfulness wasn't created by Jon Kabat-Zinn. It's been around for thousands and thousands of years. It comes from contemplative wisdom, particularly drawn from the Buddhist tradition, but also there's elements from Taoism and Hinduism and even Sufism. And so it's not what Jon Kabat-Zinn did was he took this contemplative wisdom and made it much more mainstream and accessible to everyone, no matter what religion or spiritual belief one has, if they even have one. So it's very secularized. It's the practice that I'm going to be talking about today is available to anyone. You don't have to become Buddhist to practice it. But it certainly carries the heart of what contemplative practices have been able to offer. And so the definition of mindfulness, it's a hard thing to define. It's kind of like trying to define what is love or what is art. But for the sake of today, I think it would be helpful to have a formalized definition. Could anyone here provide how you see mindfulness? Does anyone have what comes to mind when you hear that word?
Focusing on the present, being in the present.
Absolutely, focusing on the present. That's a huge element of it. Yes?
Focusing on the present moment without judgment.
Exactly, beautiful. So yeah, we've just named two elements: focusing on the present, which is a huge part, but certainly not everything. And then the other element, without judgment, non-judgmental. So these are two very, very important parts of mindfulness. Typically, even if we're aware of the present, there might be some type of resistance towards either our inner or outer experience. So typically, the things that we like that are pleasant in our experience, whether it's internal or what's happening around us, whether it's sounds, sights, smells, or events, people, if it's something we don't like, if it's something that we like, it's pleasant, we want more of it. So we naturally may grab onto it. If it's something we don't like, well, then we are going to naturally resist. It's how we're naturally conditioned, and it's a very intelligent response because it's helped us survive for all these years. And if it ends up being something that's neutral, that's neither pleasant or unpleasant, what do? Well, we may just completely tune out because it might be boring, doesn't really grab our interest, so we may not even be aware of it, even though it's happening right in front of us. So what mindfulness is it's the practice of opening to whatever it is in our experience, internally and externally, without judging it, without deciding whether we like it or whether we don't like it, but opening up to it and observing it with more of an open-hearted awareness, which we'll get into. So we talked about two parts of mindfulness: the present moment, which if you think about it is really the only moment that we have to live and to grow and to change is the present moment. And then the other element of being non-judgmental towards the experience. There's one more element of this, and which I think is very much at the heart of it, and that's the intention to pay attention to the present moment non-judgmentally. So doing this on purpose. We are naturally going to have moments in our life where we're aware of the present moment and perhaps even non-judgmental about it. But there's this other element of mindfulness practice where we're intentionally cultivating that. And we could do that through meditation practice as well as in daily life. The intention is what could initiate the whole process of being aware in the present moment non-judgmentally. So it's intention, present moment, and then non-judgmentally, which another word for, if you could think about being non-judgmental, or another aspect of that is it's a certain type of attitude that we're cultivating if we want to practice this. It's an attitude. It's not a state of mind. So it's not like we're saying, okay, we need to be calm, because as you well know, oftentimes that doesn't work very well. If we're not calm, to just tell ourselves to be calm may not be very effective. And in the thing that one of the things that really drew me to this practice is that the typical stress management courses where we're taught how to relax, that may work for some people, but there may be a number of people that the more they try to relax, the more that they get anxious. And I'll give you an example, even just more informally. Coming here to talk to you today, I walked in, I was like, wow, there's over 40 people here. I'm going to get nervous, even though I've been practicing mindfulness for 16, 17 years now. I am going to feel nervous when I come to speak in front of a group. However, with mindfulness practice, it's taking an attitude of acceptance and non-judgment. So I felt myself feeling nervous, but I didn't reject it as something, oh, no, I got to be calm. Because if I said, oh, no, you got to calm down, you got to stay calm, that right there could create a big struggle. And we'll talk more about that. So mindfulness isn't about reaching a state of mind. It's actually coming right into contact with the state of mind that we're already in. And the beauty of it is that it's already there at any moment. We could access it even when our mind state is completely in a very difficult place. We could still bring mindfulness in because it's always there. We could be aware, non-judgmentally, of what's happening. Now, it's not an easy practice, but the benefit could be enormous with cultivating this type of practice, because then we're no longer dependent on having to feel a certain way or having to have a certain type of experience. It could be very empowering to have the ability to become more comfortable in our own skin and be able to be more comfortable with the array of emotions that may happen. So we tell people that take MBSR that we're going to teach them to become so relaxed that they're even relaxed when they're nervous, if that makes any sense. So I thought what we could do today is do a formal practice of meditation. And it's important to know that the formal practice of mindfulness it could be practiced in so many different ways. There's, for instance, in the class that I teach, we do it in a variety of ways. We do sitting meditation, and even within that, there's different methods of practice. We do something known as body scanning, where we lie down on the floor and systematically scan through our bodies with our breath and open up to the sensations that are being experienced in the body. There's a yoga element to it, with MBSR in particular. We do what's known as hatha yoga, and a very gentle form of stretching and body awareness. And there's even things known as another practice known as walking meditation, where we walk very slowly. Doesn't have to be slow, but typically we start slow and be very mindful, very present of the whole miracle of being able to walk, if we are able to walk. So it's practiced in those variety of ways within MBSR, and outside of MBSR, and in just it could take a variety of forms. Practices like Tai Chi, Qigong, mind-body practices certainly incorporate elements of that formal mindfulness practice. So it could be done in quite a few different formats. But for today, what I'd like to do is do a short sitting meditation with you, especially since we're all sitting. And so the first part of this practice is to find the right posture. And it's ideal to find a posture in which you can be upright, but also relatively relaxed. So rather than slouching in the chair, and if you have any kind of back problem, feel free to make whatever adaptations you need to, because obviously your health comes first. But if it's comfortable for you, you could even sit up a little bit in front of the chair without resting your back on the backrest, if that's comfortable for you. If you need to use it, that's fine. But seeing if you could even support your own posture without having to rely too much on the back rest. And you could experiment more at home with this, because it's ideal to have your knees a little bit lower than your hips. So if you're tall like me, it might be helpful to have an extra cushion. And if you're short, it might be helpful to have something on the floor, so that your knees aren't too far down. So you could kind of experiment what works. And this could even be done lying down if need be. But I find, as well as for many people, that sitting is helpful in just being able to stay awake. And also the posture of sitting up straight with a dignified posture could create a sense of alertness and dignity. It could even help with our own mind state when we sit up like this versus getting too casual and too relaxed. So, but once you've found a comfortable position, and I use these bells to begin and end meditations. And I'll be guiding throughout this practice, and my voice will come in and out during this. And if you don't mind turning off any cell phones that you have, and if you do need to step out, if you could just do it quietly, if at any point you need to, please feel free to. And allowing your eyes to close if that's comfortable for you as I sound the bell. So beginning to become aware of the fact that you're sitting here. Sitting and knowing that you're sitting. You might want to become aware of the contact that your body is making with the chair and the floor. Perhaps feeling the feet making contact with the shoes, which are making contact with the floor. Feeling the weight of your bottom against the chair as gravity pulls you down towards the earth. Allowing the floor and the chair to hold you up. And becoming aware of your torso area, noticing your posture right now. No need to judge or try to figure out if you're doing it right or not. Just simply noticing the posture. Becoming aware of your shoulders. If they're tensing up, seeing if it's possible to let them just drop down and soften. Nothing to hold on to, nothing to strive for. Letting them just drop down towards the ground, letting gravity do its work without resisting. And letting the face become at ease. If you notice any tensing within the face, giving the face permission to soften. Soft eyes, soft cheeks, letting the forehead relax. And when you're ready, beginning to become aware of the sensations of breathing without forcing the breath in any way, simply coming into contact with the flow of sensations of the breath. Noticing the in-breath as the air comes in the body, and noticing the out-breath as the air leaves the body. And this isn't a breathing exercise, so just allowing your breath to move on its own accord, letting the body simply breathe itself, while bringing your full care and attention to the sensations of the breath coming in and out. With a curiosity, exploring where do you feel the breath most present for you? Do you notice the sensation of air coming in and out of the nose? Perhaps for some of us, we may notice the chest as it gently moves with each round of breath. Or you may notice the breath and the sensations of the breath within the belly as the belly expands with the inhalation and as it deflates with each exhalation. Allowing the belly to be soft and at ease. And staying here with the breath, not so much thinking about the breath, but rather really feeling the breath. Allowing yourself to fully experience each round of breath. And of course, when you notice the mind has wandered, which it will do, no need to give yourself a hard time, but rather just making note of what it is that's taken you away, whether it's a train of thought or mental images in the mind, and gently bringing the awareness right back to the breath and beginning again. Coming back to the in-breath and the out-breath. Thoughts appearing and disappearing in the mind. Simply making note of that and coming back to the breath. And you might notice other bodily sensations arise and pass, whether they're pleasant or unpleasant or perhaps just neutral. Simply noting whatever sensations might be present within the body with an openness. And once you make note of it, you may want to come back to the breath, using the breath as an anchor from moment to moment. Knowing that there's no right way to feel, however you're feeling right now, that's exactly where to be. Right here as you are, with the flow of sensations of the breath. And again, if you find that the mind is carried away in thought or mental images in the mind, simply making note of that, reconnecting with the breath, and beginning again with a kind awareness. No need to judge, no need to evaluate, just simply coming back to the breath. And if it's comfortable for you, you may want to even expand your awareness now to sounds that you hear coming and going. Whether that's the sound of your own breath, sounds in the room, or outside of the room, without looking for anything. Simply hearing and knowing that you're hearing. Opening to the sensation of hearing. just slowly opening the eyes once again, gradually reconnecting with what's around you. Well, thank you. Thank you for practicing that.
Where's my wallet?
Wallet's missing? So what I'd like to do is just briefly touch upon bringing mindfulness into daily life, and then we'll open it up to discussion. And with the meditation that we did today, that's something that's oftentimes in the class how we start with the breath, and then eventually we expand to other parts of our human experience, such as sensations in the body. Today we did sounds as well. Eventually we open it up more to thoughts in addition to that. So at the end of this, I'll give you some resources for if you're interested in practicing on your own. There's some recordings that I could refer you to, some of which I made myself, and then some other ones in addition, so you have some options if you're interested in at-home practice. And you could certainly do it in silence and just using the breath to come back to. But you also have the option of listening to these guided recordings that I'll make sure you have by the end of today. So as far as the informal practice of mindfulness, a couple things I wanted to mention. One is it's not just about stress reduction. Awareness in daily life could be also just a way to become more alive and awake and enjoy all the wonderful experiences that might be accessible to us in any given moment, such as the taste of our food. How often do we eat food so fast or distract ourselves while we're eating and we didn't even taste what we ate? So part of mindfulness practice could be really tasting our food and getting that experience. It could be being when we're in the presence of someone we love, really being aware of the feeling that we have towards that person, and maybe even being very mindful of what it's like to be in their presence and to hear them and fully see them and to fully appreciate them. It could be when we're outside and we see the beautiful blue sky or the mountains, really taking in those sights. It could be even something as simple as taking a shower. When we're in the shower, really being in the shower. How often are we taking a shower and our mind is off in a million places? We might kind of, in a sense, have 20 other people in the shower with us because of all the things that were racing through our minds. And mindfulness practice could be the experience of really being in the shower and feeling the warm water on our back. It could really be a nice experience. So it could be done in all sorts of different ways of just enjoying the pleasant moments. When it comes to the more unpleasant moments, it could also be very useful. In the MBSR class, we spend a lot of attention towards body awareness. And you might wonder, well, why is it that we would pay so much attention to the body? Well, the body carries so much wisdom that I think our culture tends to overlook. It's very easy I think our culture here in the U.S., we're very much up here in our heads. And that could be, and of course that still has enormous benefit to society and the way we could progress. But I think we could oftentimes overlook quite a bit of important information that's happening also within our whole body, because our body carries a whole wealth of information for us. So I'll give you an example. Let's say we are talking to someone and they say something that really upsets us and triggers us. Well, what's going to happen in the body? Naturally, if we get angry, our body's going to be the first thing to catch it. Our body is going to, anger might feel like kind of like we want to jump out of our skin, or we feel like our muscles are tightening up, or we may feel this whole overwhelming feeling in our whole body. We could, if we are practicing mindfulness, that could potentially catch us before we get carried away by that whole experience. Because I think what happens for many of us is when we experience uncomfortable sensations in our body by some threat, we naturally may react to it and perhaps say or do something that isn't so useful. And through mindfulness, if we're able to access this awareness of what's happening in the body while it's happening, it could really give us choice in that moment of how we're going to respond, because then we could be very aware, okay, I know that I'm getting riled up here. And rather than just habitually reacting, we could potentially maybe take a break. We could tune into the breath and slow down a little bit before jumping to the next action. It could be extremely useful for difficult emotions such as anxiety. I mentioned earlier today, one of the first things I said today was when I used to struggle with panic attacks. And mindfulness has been shown to be extremely useful for panic attacks, because what typically happens, and I'm speaking from both personal experience and from the people that I've provided counseling for, what oftentimes happens with a panic attack is there's these uncomfortable sensations in the body that are associated with fear and panic. So it might be a racing heartbeat or a tight stomach, a feeling of wanting to jump out of one's skin or flush in the face. And then what ends up happening is naturally there's a resistance to that. It's, whoa, wait a minute, I don't like this. I need this to go away. And when that resistance happens, it could actually make the body sensations even heightened. And then it could create this whole feedback loop of difficult sensations and then this reaction, nope, I got to get this away, I don't like this is bad. And then we, in a way, we almost become divided amongst ourselves, because the sensations are what's happening inside of us, but then we might reject it because we don't like it. It's very uncomfortable. It's a disturbance. We want it to go away. And then it creates this whole loop. And then what oftentimes people do is they find a way to distract themselves, which might help provide some relief, but may not really get rid of the root of what's happening. So it's been very beneficial with panic attacks because it provides this other option. When those uncomfortable sensations happen, we could actually see what happens. What happens if we just would allow those sensations to be there and observe it? Know that it's very uncomfortable, we don't like it, but to drop down into the body and really feel it with more of a kindness versus a get out of here. And it doesn't necessarily just make it vanish, but it all of a sudden could really lessen the charge, and we could see for ourselves that it might not even be that harmful to us if we just open up to it, and could provide all sorts of valuable information. And oftentimes we encourage using the breath as a way to tune in to the body, but that's certainly not a requirement. But it's helpful because the breath is always, as long as we're alive, it's always there. And this could also be done with sadness. You know, how often do we feel sad and there's these uncomfortable sensations in the body, but we naturally may have a mechanism of we want to reject it, we don't like it. So then not only are we sad, but then there's this added struggle of not wanting it to be there. So mindfulness is a way to open up to it and just let ourselves experience what sadness actually feels like. And that might give it some room to move through us and not be as much of a struggle. Still there, but we're not resisting it. So these are some examples on how it could be used in daily life. And so I guess I would encourage you could experiment next time if you catch yourself in any kind of struggle, to experiment what would it be like if you tuned into your body and just let your body do what it's doing. And you can see for yourself, is it harming you? If it's harming you, obviously you'd want to get medical attention. But oftentimes we'll find that there's no harm. It's just a temporary disturbance that's arising, and then it's going to pass away. And so by being aware of it, it could open up all sorts of new options without having to struggle with it. And finally, I'll just say the more that we practice the formal practice of meditation, or however that formal practice might look, the stronger oftentimes the informal practice could happen naturally. So it's like we're rewiring the brain every time we practice, and we're training ourselves to be able to, for that awareness to kick in more naturally as we go about our day. So we have about 5 minutes left, and wanted to open it up to questions or comments. Yes?
Yeah. Does mindfulness complement or replace transcendental meditation?
That's a great question. Well, I think it could certainly be either or. I think it could complement, or it could be, someone might find that it could be more beneficial for them. And so it's something to explore. But I think with mindfulness practice, there is an element of concentration, which transcendental meditation incorporates. So you could certainly do both. I don't think it has to be an either or. So I think I think you could find it very beneficial to enhance what's already been practiced. Yes.
So you've been triggered and you're feeling betrayal, and so you become present, quiet, and you feel betrayal in your body and your breath and so forth. How do you go about releasing it or moving beyond feeling betrayed?
Well, and certainly, I'm really glad you mentioned that, because certainly this isn't a practice of just becoming complacent and not doing anything about if there's something that's been done that's not right. So this is in no way are we saying not to act on something. This is more taking the opportunity to first tune into the body and become aware of what's going on for us. And then maybe after some time, we could then decide how we're going to respond. In some cases, it may be useful to really take a little bit of a break before we respond. So I know that, let's say there's an argument that's happening between two people. If one person has been triggered and goes into that fight or flight response, it's going to be really hard for them to really be able to resolve anything in that moment. There was a study done by this great marriage therapist named John Gottman, and he did this study where he took couples and had them argue with each other. He had them work out an argument in a room with a video camera observing them. And what he found was that when they got escalated, they would actually lie to the couple and tell them that the camera broke. And they say, okay, you got to take a 10-minute break here. And so they take a 10-minute break, and what they found was when the camera went back on, they were able to resolve the problem much easier because their physiological response settled down a little bit. But if our heart rate is above 100 beats per minute, it's going to be hard to think clearly. So I guess I kind of answered your question in a very long way. But I think ultimately it still could be very useful to respond, but perhaps taking a little bit of time to first become aware of what's going on before just automatically reacting. Yes?
I think we're so heavily invested in controlling things rationally that we're not even aware of discomfort and issues that the body can illuminate for us. And I think the first step to overcoming a problem or an issue is to experience it, acknowledge that it's there. And if you can entertain it in a kind way, hold it like a little baby, or just sort of nurture it, not intellectually, but just at an emotional level, there's movement that can take place.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with that. That's very well said. And I think if we try to go into our head right away, we may just be adding more fuel to the fire. So by tapping into that body awareness, and like you say, holding it like a baby, and really bringing in a kind attitude towards the experience. Non-judgmental. Absolutely.
You mentioned you could do this on a slow walk. How do you start? How slow do you walk? You can't close your eyes when you're walking. You're liable to hit some car coming down the road.
Yes. Yeah, so you definitely want to have your eyes open, and
You got to be aware of
it could look in a variety of
surroundings and whatnot, traffic particularly.
Yes. So walking meditation, it's not like we're like zombies walking, just haphazardly. It's more of it could be done in a variety of ways. A very, very structured, formal way is to pick like a 15-foot line, perhaps indoors or outside if you're not going to be having people stare at you, and just to walk at a little bit of a slower pace than you would normally walk. Because when we slow down a little bit, it makes it a lot easier to be aware. And you could experiment. I mean, there's so many different ways of doing this. So that would be one form, and really being aware of the motion, the feeling of the feet touching the ground. But it also could be done at a regular pace. Let's say we're outside taking a walk in the park or on a trail. We could speed it up and just walk the way we normally walk, but continually return to our experience of walking, and perhaps even taking in the sights and the sounds and the smells. It could be a really wonderful experience out in nature. So it's a very, it could be a much more loose. It doesn't have to be very structured.
Like we did earlier, because it
Yeah.
has to be that type thing.
Exactly, yeah. So I thank you so much for having me. And in the handout that Martha had given out, so the first 2 pages is this an article I had written that gives a little bit of a summary of this. Then there's information on how to practice, both the formal and the informal practice, and some pretty simple exercises. Simple but not easy, I would say. And then on the back side, there's books that I recommend, as well as some websites that have free meditations. And the one that says mindfultrain.org, that's one that I put together. So there's no cost to it. Right now I have 5 meditations on there. So I recommend checking it out, and you could stream or download it straight through your phone or your computer for free. And then also my contact information is on the bottom of the second page here. I run groups that are open to anyone impacted by cancer. They don't have to be patients of our center. We take anyone who's impacted. So if you would ever be interested, definitely give me a call, and I'll let you know the next time that we offer a group. So thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. So I just want to make a comment. You may be wondering, especially those of you who are here for the first time, is why are we not talking about prostate cancer today in the prostate cancer group? I think the physicians are just so committed to the idea of offering as many resources as possible for our patients to manage their cancer, to become better survivors, to walk that path in different ways. And we identified a long time ago nutrition and exercise. We do a lot of stuff with that, with our groups and classes that we have. But this type of topic has demonstrated such benefit to our patients that I think there's actually 3 ways that you can gain control of the experience of your cancer. Nutrition, absolutely. Exercise, tuned to whatever your needs and abilities are. And I can't find the right word, but I'm thinking mindfulness might be that 3rd category. I don't like spirituality. I don't like any type of, mainly because some people reject and some people are drawn to that. So I'm not sure what to call it, but this 3rd area of building strength to manage your cancer. So that's what it's all about. Thank you so much for coming. If you did not get your handouts, I have them over here. There's evaluation forms if you do not mind turning those in. And how to get to this recording is in the little booklet if you didn't get one of those. Thank you very much.
You know who will be the speaker next month, Martha?
Pardon?
You know who will be the guest speaker next month?
Next month is, okay, I'm going to have to pay you after lunch, okay? For all the things I've forgotten. Next month, February, we always do Healthy Heart. And for the most part, I've had cardiologists come to speak to us, and physical therapists, nutritionists, all this. This year, we have decided the practice is going to start a program called Walk with the Doc. So once a month, we'll kick it off in February with a meeting to talk about the logistics, but once a month, one of the docs here at the Urology Center will host, if you will, a walk in the neighborhood. And you will walk with him. Yeah, they're all hymns. Well, there's one gal. It can be a short little walk up through Jefferson Park and around. It might be around the stadium. It might be down the path and across that bridge. over I-25. There's a variety of paths, but it's an opportunity to engage in this one very healthy activity, and we're hoping to spur you on to a routine of this. So March will be the first one, and it'll be posted on the website, and please sign up for it. You'll get a little packet when you arrive with a water bottle and a variety of little things to get you going on the walk. Walk with a Doc is a national phenomenon, actually, and there's one at National Finish. It's a national organization, and the reason I mention that is because I might have to change the name, because it's a registered name. But so check the website, come to the February meeting. Enjoy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Will it be posted?
It's decided on the dates.
It's great that you already have that experience. That's how you
There's one where you just sit and talk.
David, how you doing? You got prostate cancer too? Yeah. Yeah. We were trying to find you this week. Really?
We come down, we stay down.
Thank you so much.
He gave me this book, so
So you were having a chance, so you started researching
and so I need to do conversion. So I started cutting the pictures out and putting it where Dr. Mueller said, human restoration covers prostate. I said, no. You gotta dumb it down.
That would be good.
For us patients, because we go into shock now, and you just go through the process. I started cutting the pages out, putting them in the process, and started circling all that stuff. And my brother, he's very healthcare with his wife. They're doing healthcare, sorting, and that's what's got mine going so fast.
I was just looking for a card, which of course I don't have.
Oh, that's okay.
But you know where it is. Well, you might not know.
No,
If you couldn't get hold of it.
I'm findable on, this is how the government's on it. We're on LinkedIn, and you can find me on LinkedIn and Facebook.
All right.
And then
Bill
Mark,
Green.
yeah, and then Mark Walker is my MBA. He took something that we've known each other for quite a while. He worked at Stars, and so he said, wait a minute. we don't want to start it. It's just be his mentor. Let's manage what we have here because it's so simple. Again, this is an opportunity. We are now the leaders. Everybody else is dying. Our turn to be leaders, you know. The second thing Mark and I are looking at, you write the near out. The Denver Center. What they're doing? All right. The Denver Center complex, or the land. The Denver Center. You remember way back when you and I had a lot of women there. They kicked us out. Well, now they're doing the 50-year plan. So what I was thinking, I said, that's what the other one was trying to get hold of you. We want a little micro committee like Mark and Sultan and stuff. We go down there because they will figure out how best on a private-public partnership. So I'm becoming pretty good. The one thing I was not good at is raising the big dollar. So letters of support, I think we could put something together that be everlasting, so we don't have to do this every day on. But this next generation of media, it's all, I don't know if beyond you, it's beyond a lot of us, but still, I think you'll see that I have a plan to manage those resources. You know, the current trend in music and arts and media, they need it, which keeps them one of the media hubs. We don't recognize it. So it's a way that we can finance our retirement and remain on boards and get to go on meetings. We have another thing that I worked on, created is the scripted media that we use. That's where again you can help because you know how we're all trying to do, like well, Carol Stockness, she had, when I was asking about that Barney Ford thing, I'm sitting here with all these different folks, and it turned to be your script and her script, and they all have a Barney Ford thing. And so putting it all together, and now, have you checked out Amazon Studios? You might want to register there. I registered there, Val registered there. We're all registering there because that's our distribution pipeline. We have a $10,000 thing if you want to do something, or if you're a media type person, they have the project. The 200,000, 400,000. So the thing of it is, the way it's getting time with the pin, we don't have this day-to-day. I don't think we need to be involved, but you're such a marksman, individualist. Oh yeah, to this day, I'll never forget that. And now with the depth that you do with a 4K cell phone camera.
Right.
It's not what you, it's
that's what I'm thinking of these days.
And to these, like I brought a kid up, you got to meet him. He's a director of photography. There we are. And he just walked in one day, Channel 12 there, and I was going to art school there. And all this equipment we had that didn't work, I got it back working, but he got stuff that was broken working again. But as he was saying, he lives in Salina, Kansas now. He's put 12 months together, but he can go from scripted media to great help visualist again to help us get stuff done. He's in forward.
I got to run.
Yeah,
but
that's why I
I'll look you
said
up
we may not get another chance to speak like that. But
here we are across
the
the
thing
table.
of it is, it's a small world.
And the same, isn't that center where we started? Right?
Yeah, right across the way. Everything all gets new again.
How many years ago?
But that's why I'm dying to hear where you're at with your visual media career, because we're not dead yet.
No, I don't feel
Who are your doctors?
Dr. Mueller.
Yeah, you're Mueller.
And Dr. Gross.
Oh, see, now you may be ahead of me. Now, like tomorrow I go for my colonoscopy. I try to make sure I don't have two cancers.
What have you been diagnosed with?
Prostate.
Okay, have they done any treatment yet?
Oh yeah, so that's my problem right now. They put the hormone lowering thing. Where are you with yours?
I went through the radiation.
Oh, radiation.
Finished a year ago.
See,
May.
you're part of the support team. They're saying the network with somebody like
But this is the
yourself.
first time I've come to this.
Well,
Session.
because you've been through it, you can help me because I'm going through what you did.
Right.
See why it has a friend that, so we
We
can,
show up.
yeah, we can be buds because we can speak shorthand. And I may not understand, because like I said, I gotta use the courage George.
All this comes out of the blue.
Did it just come over you or did? And
It wasn't. I had
Well, how old are you now?
64.
See, I'm 66 as of Friday. So you see, we're right. I knew we were right in the same close thing.
But this was like totally out of the blue. It's like right before Christmas last year. He wanted to do a biopsy. Biopsy's back. I got that call. I was like, what?
He calls you right away. And I told Dr. Miller, quit telling us sports people you're sorry. Sports sorry means you got a week to live.
Yeah.
Your job as our doctors to get us back into the game. So David, please look me up and
I will. I'll do it tonight.
Yeah, please
Okay.
do. And just friend me and we'll go from there.
Okay.
'Cause I need a friend.
Sounds good.
Thank you so much for recognizing. I never.
Well, I'm sitting across the hall.
You know him.
Jesse, I'll see you next month.
Okay.
That's what it's like with a piece of
Yeah. I'll see you, Coach.
That didn't come apart. Taking it easy over there, huh? They need a TV up here so we can see and watch TV.
My name should be on one of these, I had to find it.
And if not, she said you just sign down below.
Yep, I got it right here. She's got my right phone number. Thanks for the information, Jesse. It's a good place to take a nap. You waiting to talk to, I am too, so. I'll make it real quick. I just want to apologize for not getting here on time. My wife called me up. I was out in the parking lot before noon. My wife called me up and said, I don't know if I locked my car. I parked it at a 7-Eleven over at 6th and Sheridan. I said, you didn't park on their lot, did you? She says, yeah, I did. I went, it's got a no parking sign there. So I went over there, and she parked right over the top of their fuel fill, over by their car wash. And so I went inside and I talked to them. They said, well, lock it up. Let me see if we're going to get a fill today, because if it is, we would tow it normally. And so got this big sign right in front of where she parks. I mean, she parks here, it's right in front of it. So I took a photograph and I texted it to her. She was supposed to be here with me, and she got called in to do something with work, and so she was working with one of the guys from work. And they had to go to a meeting downtown. They didn't want to both park downtown. I went, well, that would have cost you $300. So I went and made nice with them and filled my car up to make them happy, and then I missed the meeting. So I couldn't believe it when she told me. It was just like instantly I went, you can't, they have no parking signs there, and wreckers, that's how they make their money. My son did once, and he was going to see a friend that lived in an apartment building off of, it was off of 15th, but up in the areas, you know, where it's tough to park, but they got lots of places. And he did, and he walked out of her place, and the wrecker hadn't hooked onto his car yet. And he went running down there, and the guy hooked it and took it, costing $320, and they towed it 6 blocks. They towed it. It just, I was a cop 22 years. That pisses me off. But my wife being parking in no parking spot pisses me off too.
Yeah, I mean, that's one of the places that mindfulness doesn't work for crap.
You know, I gotta sit down. My back is still can't. So you have prostate cancer?
Among other things.
Yeah, I just had my 20th back surgery. I've had 2 shoulder replacements. I've had a lot of fun lately. And then I got cancer.
blame God, should have made a better species.
No, I'm sure it was something I did.
Yeah.
You know what the hell it is? I'm not sure what I did piss God off, but I'm really sorry. It's just been nonstop.
Next
The
time.
last 17 years have just been. I was on top of the world before that, though. I must have had a great life. I can't complain. My life's still been good. I spend 90% of my time in a wheelchair.
No, that's bullshit.
I'm losing the ability to walk completely because I'm losing all nerve control in my legs.
Yeah.
It's just, I just had to buy a van to take my electric wheelchair in. Everything they put down for it, if it's crippled, everything they got on it costs 20 times more than anything else. My electric wheelchair was $22,000. My first car didn't cost that.
What do you think?
You know what? It beats all alternatives. I mean, I'm not going to give up, and I haven't. I think I have a good attitude, but I am really tired of this shit.
Yeah, well, see, we're not like-minded on that. I think the alternative.
Do you really?
Adequate
Oh, I can't do that.
Yeah, why? What are you gonna miss?
My kids, my grandkids.
Well, I have
Hell, maybe wherever you wind up, you're still
checkup.
plugged in.
Maybe, but you know, my mom had Alzheimer's. She just passed away a year ago, about 11 months ago. And that's the most insipid thing. I can't imagine. I've got a good friend. We were.
And so here I
am.
So here you are.
And his dad died of Alzheimer's. We both committed to be sure we got a pillow man if it happens, because I'm not gonna go through that. I won't want my family to go through it either. I wanna be gone.
There you go.
And I just wanna have it done. And he's the same way. He watched his dad deteriorate to the point that he didn't know any of him. And his dad had been in Patton's Third Army and did a lot of stuff. And he took his dad to a reunion, and he remembered everybody there. They're sitting across from his sergeant. He said, "You see that son of a bitch there? He was my sergeant. The guy's wife he married a younger gal." And she's just rolling, laughing. Of course, she goes, "He is an asshole." She goes, "He's had Alzheimer's, and he knows everybody here." And my friend says, "Well, he's Alzheimer's. He knows everybody here. He remembers everything that happened then, but he didn't remember who he was. He was the chairman of the board of Sunbeam and Advanced Electric, and he didn't remember any of that. And he was in a private hospital with private people taking care of him, and he still died of it. It just, but he went all the way through it. But his kids got together. Yeah, I mean, they do it now anyway. But his kids were all there for him when he went. And he had a stereo in there, and there's nothing wrong with it. And he played. He had immigrated here from Scotland, and so he liked bagpipes. And so they were playing his favorite song on it was Scotland Embrace. And he started to go, and the people who had been working with him from the hospice were with him even at the end. Even when they didn't have to be, they really liked him. He was a likable guy. And it played, and they said, "It's getting to be time." You know, he had a major stroke, and he hadn't been conscious for a week. But all four of his kids had been right around him for the whole time. So, and his current wife and his ex-wife.
So if I can do
he was really a great guy. And only two of them were there at the middle of the night. So Mark, he and his brother were there. He called his sister and his other brother, and their mom, and they all came over. And Scotland the Raven just played, and it was going to another track. And then his dad opened his eyes, and he smiled, and the goddamn thing played a second time for no reason. It just played. And he passed away when it was playing the second time. Stereo never screwed up before, never screwed up again, but he played that song twice in a row. And it was like it played it, and stopped, and they all got to see him, and he opened his eyes, he smiled at everybody, and then the damn thing started playing again. He closed his eyes and he was gone.
I'm out of town
And I
last
thought,
week, but
that's something.
My
My mom hadn't recognized my older sister and I for a long time, and my sister was in Reno, and that's where my mom was. And I was going there every couple months, and between treatments and everything else, I was going back to see. And my brother hadn't seen her for a while, and he just moved and didn't have a lot of money, and so I paid for him to go bring his daughter out there. And we were in my mom's room. She woke up and she said, "Oh my God, it's my baby Randy." And my sister and I are like, "What are we, chopped liver?" Christ, she didn't know us. She hadn't known us for the last 2 years. But Randy walks in and she knows him.
Yeah, long-term memory comes back, short-term memory gets.
Oh, it was terrible. And you know, my dad has dementia, and he kept screaming at her to stop acting like that. And she'd say, "Well, I just talked to my dad." And he goes, "Your dad died 45 years ago." But you know, I think she thinks she just talked to him. And my sister and I just couldn't get my dad to stop. And we were my mom's guardian, and finally the ombudsman and the social workers both said you have to separate them, so we had to separate them. She didn't know who he was, and they were sleeping in the same bed. She was scared of him, and it was getting really bad, so she kept trying to escape from this place. So we put her in a different place, and she never tried to escape again. She was peaceful, she was happy. We bought her 8 months of peace before she passed away, and she really was happy. She knew us, that we were there for her, and she always smiled, but she didn't know who we were. My brother hadn't seen her for 3 years. He walks in the room, and we're standing there with my niece, and my mom opens her eyes, and she goes, "It's my baby Randy," and she knew Sarah. She hadn't seen Sarah since she was little. It's like, something going on there.
Wow.
Anyway, I was here for your meeting. I was out in the parking lot. My wife called, and she said, when you're through, can you go check and see if I locked my car? I parked at the 7-Eleven at Sheridan and 6th, and I went, where? And she says, right by their car wash. I said, it's a no parking spot. I said, they charge $300 to tow a car. So I went over there, and I got there before they did. She parked right over their gas bill. Jesus. And it says, right in front of it, I took a photo and sent it to her before I came back here, and it says, no parking, tow zone, all that. Right in front of her, she parked. I mean, it's like, and she's a brilliant woman.
Like mindfulness while driving.
So what happened was she was supposed to be here, and then she had to do something with work, and she had to work with one of the other guys, actually this guy from the factory, and they wanted to drive both cars downtown. And when she told me, I was coming here, and she called, and I said, I'm not going to make it. And I said, well, why don't you, she'll need to park the car. I said, park at the aquarium at the K parking lot. And our son's the education coordinator there. He's the head of the education department there.
Oh, yeah.
And I said, just park it and pay for it there. She says, okay. Then she calls me on the phone and tells me this, I'm sitting out in the parking lot here. So I missed your meeting. I'm terribly sorry. I'll come next time.
Well, let me tell you, you don't have to miss it. Because
I'm on the list, and I put, you had some wrong numbers down, so I put my...
Oh, good. What we did for the first time today, and I hope it's successful. What do you think of my chances, Bill?
I'm giving you 90-10.
He needs to talk to you, and I told him I'd only take a minute, and I'll get out of your hair.
So what I'm telling you is that we recorded today's session. And in a couple of days, it will be on our website, and you will be able to...
I picked up both of these. I folded them up and I grabbed these two books. I read the big book, but I don't have these two.
Okay. So you'll be able to listen to it.
Cool.
Yeah.
These they tell me I could grab these, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Well, I am so sorry. Larry Hendricks.
Hi, Larry.
And I'll drag my wife in here next time. You can
Good deal.
berate her for parking her car. And I can't believe the second she said that, I was a cop 22 years. The second she said that, I went, oh my God, it's a no parking zone. I said, they charge $300 to tow a car. And I went over there and I said, yeah. I said, and had it been the morning they were bringing delivery, we'd have had to tow it because the car's locked.
Right.
They had no way to do anything else, and I offered to leave the key, and they didn't. So I filled mine with gas because I felt guilty, and mine was almost out of gas anyway. But I paid 70 cents more a gallon to fill it there than I would have back up by our house. But that's okay. It was worth it. So I spent $30 there to fill the car. But they didn't want anything. They wouldn't take money. I tried to live money, but it just if you don't think, stuff like this happens. You know, I mean, I was a bomb technician. I think about every move I make. You know, and just. Yeah, I took bombs apart.
What department did you work in? I mean, what?
Oh, I never lived here. I moved here because I had worked undercover a lot, and I had never worked undercover around here. One time I did. The chief of police was a friend of mine here, and one time I did some stuff for him. That was just because he needed somebody to watch a couple of his cops. So I came down here and worked with him. But anyway,
Who you have a secret agent on this, Bill?
Remember Bob Shaughnessy when he was chief? Good friend of mine. We were bomb technicians. We went to school together.
Wow.
I got a question.
Yeah.
Always see you guys in that stupid fluffy suit.
Let me tell you something about that fluffy suit. We never wore that goddamn thing taking a bomb apart. We'd wear the thing inside, take it off, take the bomb apart, put it back on, and carry out the components that aren't going to go off. And it looks really cool, and you put it in the trailer, and then you leave it. Now, it is dangerous, it's explosive, but you can't work on one wearing those suits. They show them on TV bent over wearing a suit, they don't wear those suits.
Yeah.
And the suits we used to have, now the kind that Bob and I had were made of steel. They were hardened steel, and it was all over you. It went all over you, and it had a cover of OD green, and they were nylon, heavy nylon. And so you put these on, and they weighed 135 pounds. So
wow.
it was like an armor. it was armor. And then the helmet, there was a helmet that had a polycarbonate shield about this thick, and it was polished really fine. So your head had survived, but when a bomb goes off or when it pressures, your body can only sustain 12 psi before things start coming apart. Basically 11 psi. Well, even a half a stick of dynamite produces more than that. So if the bomb's anything bigger than about that, when it goes, you're going to die anyway. So we had another set later on, and it was ceramic. It was about this thick. It was made out of ceramic. Same helmet, made out of ceramic, and there was a chest piece, and there was a groin piece, because you had to think that part of you was going to survive, and if it did, you want to make sure it was your telly wire. I think it was psychological, because there wasn't any other armor with that one. But it was much lighter, and so that was the better one. And then those Galt suits came out. That's called a Galt suit, made by Galt Glass of England. And they were having a real bad time with the IRA. And then they tried to hire every guy that went through the Army's school here. They tried to hire him in England, and they were paying $135,000 a year for bomb tech, but they were losing him a lot too. Anyway, and Belgium had a worse problem, and their problems were coming up when farmers would start farming stuff. For the last several big wars, including the last 2 world wars, were fought in Belgium, and they're always bringing stuff up because it circulates underground. They're always bringing stuff up, and they have a really active bomb system there. And they take old stuff apart. I damn near took that job because the first 70,000 was tax exempt. I almost took that, but then like an idiot, I stayed making. When I first was, I was making $575 a month. But I was an adrenaline junkie. It was more adrenaline than you could possibly handle.
I would think so.
Anyway, it was fun. It really was. It was a lot of fun. And the first bomb trailer that they had in this region. Region 2 of the it's called the International Association of Bomb Technicians Investigators. We bought it, but we centered it here. So I was up in Wyoming, and so and I was working for the federal government. So if we wanted it, they'd fly it up there. And Frontier, the old Frontier, would fly it for free. They'd fly our stuff for free. And if it was something you could take time with, they'd bring it up. If it was military, then we'd call Fort Carson, because even though we had more training in IEDs was something we talked about that wasn't ever used on TV or anywhere else. That was a secret term. When we'd say IED over the radio, we knew what it meant, but nobody else did. And so that became a big thing with the Gulf War.
Wow.
That term, because they embedded journalism, and the journalists picked up on the term listening to it. But that movie, what was the name of that? The bomb technician, and the guy gets down there and takes off his suit. That's exactly what happens in real life. You can't. If they set it off, you're going to die anyway. And
yeah.